how is this signal affecting us when there are other signals stored? How much does our brain transmit that gets amplified going out in those same proportions? It's a significant amount of amplification for that weak of a signal to be able to fire off to create a nerve response in our brain.
Do you
So
know what
if
I'm
we
going to
can,
have to do?
what's that?
I'm going to have to interrupt you.
Uh, it is flying by
I
tonight.
can't believe it. It is. I think it's because this is a topic that we're both so passionate about. So,
Oh yeah.
well, we'll be back. This is our top of the hour news break. Flip and flop, do some cartwheels, get some wine, get some tea, get a Coke, get some coffee. We'll see you in this. Maybe there'll be a little good news. What do you think? Let's check it out.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from E-Trade. With all the jargon, investing can feel like a foreign language. E-Trade makes investing simple by providing personalized support and guidance in terms you can understand. They let you get started in the market with as little as $500 and then help you learn as you go. You don't need to be a pro to invest at E-Trade. For more information, visit etrade.com/NPR. E-Trade Securities, LLC. Member SIPC.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. The House Judiciary Committee increased its leverage in negotiations with the Attorney General today by authorizing subpoenas demanding the full, unredacted version of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report. The committee also authorized subpoenas for figures in the Trump orbit, including former White House counsel Don McGahn, former advisor Steve Bannon, former spokesperson Hope Hicks, and former chief of staff Reince Priebus. NPR's Tim Mack has more.
Voting along partisan lines, the panel authorized subpoenas for the full Mueller report and its underlying investigative evidence, something that the Attorney General has not committed to providing Congress. Here's Chairman Gerald Nadler speaking at the hearing.
This committee requires the full report and the underlying materials because it is our job, not the Attorney General's, to determine whether or not President Trump has abused his office.
So far, Attorney General William Barr has only committed to providing a redacted version of the Mueller report to Congress, which he pledged he would do by mid-April, if not sooner. Democrats on the committee have said that is unacceptable. Tim Mack, NPR News, Washington.
The Department of Justice says conditions in Alabama prisons are unsafe and unconstitutional. NPR's Debbie Elliott reports the findings are the result of a civil rights investigation prompted by spiraling, sometimes deadly violence in Alabama lockups.
The federal probe finds that Alabama routinely violates the constitutional rights of prisoners by failing to protect them from prisoner-on-prisoner violence and sexual abuse. The prison system is in crisis due to chronic overcrowding and dangerous understaffing. The Justice Department report details cases of inmate deaths, rapes, and rampant contraband weapons and drugs. State officials say they are aware of the problems and working on reforms. The federal government says it will sue if Alabama does not correct the severe and systemic issues. Republican Governor Kay Ivey says the state will make certain that, quote, this Alabama problem has an Alabama solution. Debbie Elliott, NPR News.
Federal health officials are investigating whether e-cigarettes can trigger seizures in some people who vape. The Food and Drug Administration says it's looking at 35 reports of seizures among vapers, particularly young people. And while regulators say there is no clear evidence vaping is responsible, seizures and convulsions are potential side effects of nicotine poisoning. Wall Street was higher by the closing bell, the Dow gaining 39 points to end the day at 26,218. The Nasdaq gained 46 points to end at 78.95. The S&P 500 gained 6 points to close at 28.73. You're listening to NPR News. The Department of Justice has sent a letter to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, that's the organization behind the Oscars, warning it that proposed rule changes preventing Netflix and other streaming services from competing for Oscars could violate antitrust laws. As NPR's Andrew Limbong reports, this is coming after the Netflix movie Roma won 3 of big awards at this year's Oscars.
The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is reportedly thinking about changing its rules over what movies are and are not eligible for Oscars. The Department of Justice confirmed to NPR that it sent a letter to the Academy, warning them that any changes could be, quote, anti-competitive. There's been a lot of sniping back and forth between Netflix and the greater film community, with director and Academy Board of Governors member Steven Spielberg telling ITV last month that movies released on streaming platforms should not be eligible for Oscars.
Once you commit to a television format, you're a TV movie.
The Academy is set to meet later this month to discuss any potential changes. Andrew Limbong, NPR News.
Police dogs could get more protection in Florida. The state Senate passed a bill that would make killing or seriously injuring a police dog a second-degree felony, punishable by up to 15 years in prison. The bill's sponsor, State Senator Aaron Bean, says the bill was inspired by a 3-year-old German Shepherd police dog named Fang, who was shot and killed by a carjacking suspect. Crude oil prices were lower by the close, losing 12 cents. That's down about 0.2%, ending the day at $62.46 a barrel. I'm Janine Herbst, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back. You are listening to Paranormal Experience Radio here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm Kat Hobson, your host, and I am joined tonight by, he's a mentor most of the time. He's a friend. We have different skills, so we kind of help each other. It's pretty cool. It's a great synchronicity. He is one of the best researchers, bar none, that I know. He is one of the best paranormal investigators that I know. He does the scientific. I do what he would call the woo-woo. We always wind up at the same place. And we have a great time doing it, and we've helped a lot of people, and I am so honored to call this man my friend. Frankly, welcome back to Paranormal Experience. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'll tell you, I've been having such a great time tonight. That it seems like we've been talking for 5 minutes.
I know, right? But, we're both fascinated by the science of the paranormal. And even though I am a bit more intuitive and spiritual and tend to know things that I ought not, I still like the science side because you find the things that help me understand why I do what I do or how I do what I do, and others too. And when I can apply the science to it, it doesn't seem quite so woo-woo, right? It helps to understand these things. So that's why I love that you're able to bring this information. And I'm so excited that the theory of the humans being able to interact with the geomagnetic fields is actually being proven. So I just think that's a bizarre and wonderful thing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure anyone listening can tell this is something that I've been excited about because this is such a tremendous discovery.
Maybe a smidge.
Yes, and one too. I kind of get to have those bragging rights of, hey, you remember back years ago when
almost 5. It was almost 5 years.
Yeah. That but no, I'm telling you, when that study was released and I saw it that night, I didn't hardly sleep. I was so ecstatic.
You were probably Snoopy dancing.
Oh, I'm telling you, even now, just talking about it, that because to look at it, it would be very easy to say, okay, so we can detect the magnetic field, big deal. But that is not in itself the big picture. Mm-hmm. What that means, the big picture in that is the amplification process that is involved in that. And it's like I was saying before the break, that means that our brains are capable of taking a very weak, minute signal and amplifying it enough to create that synapse response. And then when you consider our brain is a transceiver, that means that our brain is capable of amplifying the outgoing signals as well.
And we
So
do. I mean,
that
I do. I mean, you know what I'm thinking half the time.
Mm-hmm.
I always know what you're thinking. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like, can I give an example
Sure.
of that? I won't use you. But when I was in New Orleans at one point and I was leaving a place that had been very active and very negative, and we had children with us, so we were getting out and going on down the street, and I had a friend behind me, and I heard her yell, "Cat." And I turned around and I looked at her and I said, "What?" And she was like, "I didn't say anything." I said, "Yes, you did. I heard you." And I mean, because I even looked to see who was behind her. I thought maybe somebody was grabbing her, and it was just a couple. And she was like, "Well, I didn't say it out loud." I was like, "Okay, but what is it?" And she had felt a negative presence come out of the shop we had been in chasing us.
Mm-hmm.
And when I turned around, it dissipated. So she was just like, "I can't believe you heard me." I was like, "Well, you were kind of concerned. I'm sure your energy put you right out there with me." You know, so that was when I realized that, well, there's something to that. Because I've had that happen so many times, but that was just the most obvious. And I've had that happen around Jill.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm. That I was talking with someone just a couple nights ago that is a sensitive and was saying how they could were able to pick up what I was thinking, and I'm not sure what was the reaction, the look on their face when I said, I've been around it so much that it's almost like I'm more surprised when I'm around people that can't, because I have worked with so many people, over the years that, like, well, and especially on a regular basis, like, dealing with like you and Pink and Dee and so many others that we've worked with that, it's kind of funny when you think about it, that I'm used to being able to pose the question, you know what I'm thinking? And then remember, yeah, you do.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, well, never mind.
Well, what do y'all think about it? Yeah, it is funny.
But well, and like with you and I, the synchronicity that happens. I mean, I'm going to tell everyone about, like during the break, I was mentioning a book to Kat that she should. I was saying, you've got to read this book. This is like the best book about the paranormal that doesn't mention the paranormal anywhere, but it's it's the best. And as soon as I said the name of it, she's like, "Yeah, I've got that. I'm reading that already."
By your hero, no less.
Oh, definitely.
And but things like that happen between us all the time. We're on the same wavelength, but we've been friends a very long time.
Yeah, that. Well, as much as we think alike,
one of us should be very afraid.
I know.
I'm not sure which.
Right. We'll do rock, paper, scissors on it. We'll figure
just
it out.
Changes
eventually.
from day to day.
Uh, so, so here's something to consider, though. Trying to tie all of this in. We mentioned